It all began with a voice so enchanting that it could stir the soul of anyone who listened. Tony Terry, the R&B crooner whose hit song With You became a timeless ballad for lovers everywhere, seemed destined for musical immortality. But behind the music, the story of his rise, sudden disappearance from the mainstream, and enduring legacy reveals a life shaped by passion, family, and resilience. What happened to Tony Terry? Why did his star fade from the sky so suddenly, and what has he been up to in the years since his heyday? Tony Terry was born on March 12, 1964, in Pinehurst, North Carolina, but his early life was a tale of two places. At a young age, his family relocated to Washington, D.C., where he was immersed in the vibrant culture of Chocolate City. Summers, however, were spent with his grandmother back in North Carolina, giving him a unique blend of Southern charm and urban grit. His family dynamic was unconventional but deeply rooted in love and togetherness. Tony often recounted how his mother's brother married his father's sister, which made the siblings and cousins in his family double first cousins. This close-knit family structure shaped Tony's strong values about loyalty, love, and faith. Despite growing up in a city that would later become infamous for violence and political controversy, Tony's strict upbringing kept him on the straight and narrow. My father would take a particular route home and he'd tell me, "If I see you on this route, we're going to have a problem." I stayed inside. I wasn't out on the corners with my boys, Tony reflected. Unfortunately, not all of his friends were so lucky. He tearfully revealed that every single one of his childhood friends ultimately lost their lives to violence. This early loss of friendship and innocence fueled Tony's commitment to focus on music, a passion that would become his saving grace. Tony's love for music became apparent in junior high school when he participated in a talent show. Winning that show was the moment he knew his future was set. I never had to figure out what I was going to do with my life. I knew it was going to be music. From then on, he dedicated himself to his craft, performing in local shows and perfecting his vocals. Inspired by the hit TV show Fame, Tony dreamed of attending the prestigious Duke Ellington School of the Arts in Washington, D.C. His mother, however, was firmly against it. Determined to follow his dream, Tony auditioned for the school in secret. Completely clueless about audition protocols, he walked in with an album under his arm, expecting to sing along to a record player. When informed there was no record player, he improvised by singing a cappella, a bold move that ultimately won over a sympathetic acting teacher who persuaded the school to accept him. By the time Tony graduated, even his initial critics at Duke Ellington had become supporters. His raw talent and determination were undeniable. Tony Terry's career began in the mid-1980s when he worked as a backup vocalist for groups like Sweet Sensation and the Boogie Boys. By 1987, his hard work paid off when he signed with Epic Records. His debut single, She's Fly, was released that same year and quickly climbed the Billboard R&B charts. The song showcased his smooth, soulful voice and established him as a rising star. In 1988, Tony released his first full-length album, Forever Yours, a collection of romantic tracks that resonated with fans. However, it was his sophomore album and its iconic ballad With You that turned Tony Terry into an R&B heartthrob. The song became an anthem for love, played at weddings, anniversaries, and romantic evenings for decades to come. Despite his success, Tony Terry's career trajectory began to falter due to label politics and changing industry trends. After With You became a runaway hit, many believed his next album would solidify him as an R&B superstar. Unfortunately, his record label shifted its focus to newer artists, leaving Tony's career in limbo. Rumors swirled about industry tensions and missed opportunities. One notable connection was with Anita Baker, who famously praised With You as one of the most beautiful songs she had ever heard. Baker even executive produced the music video, sparking whispers about a deeper relationship between the two. Tony, however, has remained tight-lipped about the nature of their collaboration, allowing speculation to linger. Tony's Apollo Theater performance of With You remains iconic, but it also stirred controversy. His decision to wear bold fashion choices, including a pair of eye-catching chaps, divided fans. While some applauded his daring style, others criticized it as over the top. The incident added to the growing perception that Tony was an artist who didn't quite fit into a single mold, a trait that may have hindered his mainstream appeal. As R&B evolved in the mid-90s, embracing edgier sounds, Tony's tender ballads began to struggle for chart dominance. He parted ways with Epic Records and moved to Virgin Records, where he released Heart of a Man in 1994. Despite containing gems like When a Man Cries, the album failed to achieve the same success as his earlier work. In the 2000s, Tony shifted toward gospel music, a natural evolution given his roots in the church. In 2006, he released the album Changed, collaborating with gospel icons like Yolanda Adams. His powerful voice seamlessly transitioned to inspirational music, earning him a new audience while staying true to his roots. Tony Terry may no longer dominate the charts, but his music remains as powerful as ever. In recent years, he went viral for an impromptu performance of With You at a couple's wedding in the park. With only his phone playing the instrumental track, Tony serenaded the couple with the same heart-stirring vocals that first made him famous. Fans flooded social media with praise, with one commenter declaring, "Tony Terry never left. His music is classic, and no one can take his place." In 2015, Tony released I, Tony 6 Tonight, a project that reminded fans of his extraordinary talent. Though he may not have achieved the commercial heights of some of his contemporaries, his influence on R&B remains undeniable. Tony Terry is an R&B new jack swing singer from Washington, D.C. Throughout the beginning of his career, Terry landed backup singing jobs for the R&B pop group Sweet Sensation and hip-hop group The Boogie Boys. In 1987, he signed a record deal with Epic CBS Records. Terry's first single, She's Fly, was released the same year and peaked at number 10 on Billboard's R&B singles chart. Forever Yours, Terry's debut album for Epic, was released in 1988 and reached the top 30 of Billboard's R&B albums chart. The follow-up to She's Fly, Lovey Dovey, hit number 4 on the R&B charts. It was his biggest hit. The single Forever Yours was a modest hit, reaching the R&B top 20. Terry's second album, a self-titled release, included the single With You, which was a top 20 hit on Billboard's pop chart as well as the R&B chart. Everlasting Love, a number 6 R&B hit as was With You, was also successful. After leaving Epic, Terry moved over to Virgin Records. His debut album for the label was 1994's Heart of a Man. The album was not as successful as this previous album's. The About peaked at number 47 on the top R&B hip-hop albums chart. The singles When a Man Cries and Heart of a Man became moderate hits. The following year, Terry contributed background vocals to a track on Yolanda Adams' album More Than a Melody. As the years went by, Terry began to develop his acting talents, landing roles in stage plays. Tony Terry has been wooing his fans all over the country for over a decade. His smooth, enchanting melodies have captured the hearts of female and male patrons alike. His style transcends age groups, and his multi-selling hits, She's Fly, Lovey Dovey, Forever Yours, Everlasting Love, Head Over Heels, When a Man Cries, and the now classic With You, to name a few, continue to sell and have become timeless classics. In recent years, he has performed live with Jodeci, Boyz II Men, Gladys Knight, Celine Dion, Stevie Wonder, and is currently touring with Roberta Flack. Tony has released 4 albums: Forever Yours, Tony Terry, The Heart of a Man, and My Best. He has performed on the soundtracks to Gladiator starring Cuba Gooding Jr., Tap starring Gregory Hines, and King's Ransom starring Anthony Anderson. Tony Terry has appeared on nearly every television program featuring music, usually more than once. In 1991, Tony earned 2 Soul Train Music Awards nominations, Artist of the Year and Single of the Year for With You. His accomplishments in the recording studio are complemented by a strong charisma on stage and on video. Terry released his most recent album, Changed, in 2006. The album peaked at number 54 on the top R&B hip-hop albums chart. National Recording Academy member Tony Terry is an American R&B, adult contemporary soul music artist, producer, and songwriter, and one of the major architects of the New Jack Swing era. Born in North Carolina and reared in Washington, D.C., he and his family reside in Atlanta, Georgia. Terry considers all 3 states home. Terry has numerous Billboard top hits within his repertoire from the late 1980s, early 1990s, and today, including his world-renowned hit, With You. He is also an achieved actor and activist championing for social and family health issues. Terry continues to produce grown and sexy music today, which has earned him an iconic status among his peers. Perhaps best known as the sensual, soulful balladeer, with hits like With You and Lovey Dovey, Terry's music continues to pass the test of time. Terry is a graduate at the Duke Ellington School of the Arts in Washington, D.C. He landed backing vocalist jobs for the freestyle pop group Sweet Sensation and hip-hop group The Boogie Boys before attempting a solo career in a soul, funk, dance vein. Terry's perfect combination of talent, charm, and influence makes him one of the most respected public personalities today. His recording career has presented him with relationships with Epic CBS Records, Sony Music Entertainment, and Virgin Records. His first single on Epic CBS Records, She's Fly, was released in 1987 and peaked at number 10 on the Billboard R&B Singles chart. His Epic debut album, Forever Yours, was released in 1988 and reached the top 40 of Billboard's R&B albums chart. The follow-up single, Lovey Dovey, reached number 4 on the R&B charts, and Forever Yours climbed into the R&B top 20. His biggest hit, With You, reached the top 20 of the United States Billboard Hot 100, as well as was number 1 on the top 10 R&B chart. Terry has earned 2 Soul Train Music Award nominations, as well as an American Music Awards nomination. Other hits include Everlasting Love. Terry co-wrote, sang background, and appeared in the video of Yolanda Adams' Grammy-nominated single, Gotta Have Love. Making his way to the big screen, he has performed on soundtracks to Gladiator, starring Cuba Gooding Jr., Tap, starring Gregory Hines, and King's Ransom, starring Anthony Anderson. Terry toured internationally with the legendary Roberta Flack for 6 years, performing classic, beautiful duets. With faith being an essential part of Terry's life, he is pleased to have recorded, in 2006, a gospel album entitled Changed, featuring tracks such as Praise Him, I Want to Thank You, Lord, Nobody Like Jesus, Look to the Hills, Jesus to Hold, and Come Child. He is currently signed to Soundwave Entertainment as well as Monarchy, where he will soon delight his audiences once again with newly recorded R&B and gospel recordings. Terry is a passionate public speaker. After graduation from Duke Ellington School of the Arts, Terry moved to New York and quickly landed a part in Black Nativity. As time progressed, he secured a number of other roles to include the Tin Man in the national tour of The Wiz, featuring Grace Jones, Peabo Bryson, and Cece Peniston. Terry played the dual roles of Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X in Dorothy Heights' If This Hat Could Talk the Doctor, Dorothy Heights Story, which was directed by Tony Award-winning director George Faison. Terry was also tapped by David E. Talbert to play the lead role of Michael Wright in His Woman, His Wife. Terry excelled his lead role in the Broadway-bound musical Car Wash: The Norman Whitfield Story. Terry was also cast in the lead role in Angela Dunlap's When Men Pray, co-starring Terrell Carter and Tony Grant. Terry lends his voice to many corporate and nonprofit causes. He was tapped by the National Fibromyalgia Association to serve as their national spokesperson in 2010. This is a cause that he is well acquainted with as he is caretaker to his wife, Ronnie, who suffers from the disorder. Terry flexes his voice to causes for which he is passionate about that includes families and health and wellness, and has been a supporter of the All Lives Matter movement, which gave birth to his single All Life Matters, which he has reprised for the Sign of the Times. In 2015, Terry was recognized and saluted by the largest Black caucus in the nation, the Georgia Black Legislative Caucus, for his dedication and excellence in the field of entertainment. The year 2015 also brought about new opportunities and new directions for this now iconic artist in film, television, and theater. Terry has taken on theatrical roles with numerous theater groups, most recently touring with famed playwright Shelley Garrett. In July of 2016, Terry reprised his compilation of All Life Matters, taking a spin to reflect the current times, and published a request for artists to join him in the resurgence of this single, which delves deeply into the issues of deadly police force and unreasonable harassment towards African American and that of non-Caucasian men and women across the globe via social media, and drew the attention of the leaders of the nation's oldest civil rights organization, the NAACP, with a theme of Our Lives Matter, Our Votes Matter. The members of the 107th Convention immediately asked Terry to join them to perform his song for what has now been dubbed as a social anthem, and that they could not think of a better entertainer to celebrate their works. Today, Tony Terry's net worth is estimated to be around $1 million, a modest figure compared to the multimillionaires of his era. But for Tony, success has never been about money or fame. It's about connection. Whether performing on stage, at weddings, or in intimate gospel settings, Tony's music continues to touch hearts.